Today, we're delving into a topic that has the power to transform your life. It's about harnessing the incredible potential within you and aligning it with the quantum field to manifest your desires. And guess what? You can do it with just two simple words. Yes, you heard me right. 2 words. Now, according to my research and teachings, the elevated emotion is the key to unlocking the potential of your thoughts. Every thought carries energy, and the faster the frequency, the higher the energy. Combine this with a clear intention, and it's like firing a laser into the quantum field. Picture it as a coherent signature that resonates with the universe. We've measured the effects of a coherent brain and heart, and let me tell you, something extraordinary happens. It's not just about feeling gratitude, it's about pairing that elevated emotion with a clear intention. Experiments have shown that having one without the other doesn't quite cut it. You need the combination of a clear intention and an elevated emotion to create a powerful force. So let's talk about intention. It's about getting clear on what you want. If you desire a new home, start visualizing it. Collect pictures of homes you love, draw them, write down the details. Make it a vivid experience. Your conscious mind will lead your subconscious mind towards your dreams. It's like tending to a garden. You need to nurture it and keep your focus on the beauty you want to create. And here's the thing, patience is crucial. Impatience implies doubt, and we're here to experience life, not to doubt our creations. Enjoy the process, the joy of creation. Your body follows your mind. Just like a garden needs continuous care, you'll be pulling weeds, pruning branches, but the joy comes from consuming the fruits of your creation. Now let's talk about symbols. All the details of your intention can be summarized in one powerful symbol. It could be a letter, a picture, just one image that encapsulates all your dreams. Hold on to that symbol, and remember, the thought you're having is the experience itself. Don't say, "I'll be happy when my dream comes true." Instead, recognize that the thought is the experience, and the experience produces the emotion. When you hold that symbol, whether it's your dream house or garden, you're broadcasting energy into the quantum field. It's like tuning a radio dial to the frequency of your desires. Remember, vibration and energy play a crucial role in this process. When there's a vibrational match between your energy and the potential in the quantum field, your desires will find you. Intention is about clarity. If you want to create a new reality, you need to be crystal clear about what you desire. Whether it's health, wealth, or any other goal, your intention is the beacon that guides the energy. But remember, it's not just about thinking, it's about feeling. You need to combine the thought with an elevated emotion. Imagine the future you desire and feel the gratitude. When your heart is open, you're not just feeling it, you're broadcasting that energy into the field. Your frequency carries the intent of your thoughts. Gratitude and an open heart can carry the thoughts of health and wealth. Conversely, if you're in a state of suffering, that energy won't carry the thoughts of abundance. Let's dive deeper into the 2 states of mind, creation and survival. Understanding these states can significantly impact the way we experience life. In the realm of creation, life is a vibrant tapestry of growth, expansion, and well-being. It's like tending to a garden where each day brings new opportunities for flourishing. Emotions like love, joy, and trust become the guiding forces, creating a positive and harmonious existence. This state of mind is characterized by an openness to possibilities and a belief in the inherent goodness of life. On the flip side, there's the state of survival. Picture it as navigating through life burdened by stress, imbalance, and a constant dwelling on the past. In this mindset, our bodies function as intricate reality-producing machines, responding to the signals sent by our thoughts and emotions. Living in stress initiates a relentless cycle of imbalance, gradually breaking down the body over time. Stress chemicals, driven by the survival instinct, end up endorsing the ego. This endorsement leads to a self-indulgent and self-important mindset, where we become prisoners of our own memorized emotions. Breaking free from this cycle demands a conscious effort and heightened awareness. It's about recognizing the patterns that keep us bound to stress and choosing to step out of that loop. Liberating ourselves from the chains of memorized emotions becomes the key to unlocking true self-love and joy. Now let's break down how living in survival affects us on a daily basis. Imagine waking up each morning with a cloud of stress hanging over you. Your thoughts are dominated by worries about the future or regrets about the past. This constant state of tension sets the tone for the day, influencing your decisions, interactions, and overall well-being. Physiologically, your body responds to this chronic stress. It's like a machine working in overdrive without the necessary maintenance. Over time, this continuous strain takes a toll on your physical health. It weakens the immune system, disrupts hormonal balance, and contributes to various ailments. Furthermore, stress chemicals in the body fuel the ego, that part of us which seeks self-importance and self-indulgence. The more we feed into this ego-driven mindset, the more entrenched we become in the survival state. It's a self-perpetuating cycle that can feel impossible to break. However, breaking free is not only possible, but also transformative. It begins with a conscious choice to shift from survival to creation. This shift involves cultivating awareness of our thoughts and emotions, interrupting the patterns of stress, and embracing a mindset centered on growth and well-being. When you make this conscious effort, something remarkable happens. You start to liberate yourself from the chains of memorized emotions. You begin to experience true self-love and joy. The heavy burden of stress lifts, and you find yourself open to the possibilities that creation has to offer. In the state of creation, life becomes an adventure filled with growth and positive outcomes. Your body responds by entering a state of harmony, promoting overall health and well-being. Embracing this mindset is not just a one-time decision, it's a daily practice of choosing creation over survival. So my friends, as you navigate through life, consider the state of mind you inhabit. Are you living in survival, weighed down by stress and imbalance? Or are you stepping into the realm of creation, where growth, joy, and well-being abound? The power to choose is within you, and the transformation begins when you consciously decide to live a life of creation. Transforming negative energy into positive energy is a journey only you can take. No one can do it for you. It involves breaking through the addiction to negative emotions, being uncomfortable with change, and embracing the liberation of energy. The same energy that once fueled anger, hatred, or prejudice can be transmuted into joy with a different spin. This isn't just changing your mind, it's changing your neurology, circuitry, and chemistry. It's a profound transformation that signals the genes to express a new and healthier version of yourself. True change happens when you make that emphatic declaration and witness the biological, neurological, and quantum effects. Now, let's flirt with the idea of how your subjective mind affects the objective world. Traditional physics follows cause and effect, something outside of you changing something inside of you. But what if we could change something within us, in our consciousness, thoughts, and feelings? We often let the external environment influence our thoughts and feelings, but here's the catch. If we only think and feel as great as our environment, we're stuck in a loop. To break free, we need to change something inside us, in our consciousness. That's where the real power lies. Always get what you visualize when you harness the power of intention, elevated emotion, and the quantum field. Remember, it's not about waiting for your dreams to come true. It's about realizing that the thought is the experience. Embrace the journey, be patient, and watch as your desires unfold in ways you never imagined. So, with just 2 words, intention and emotion, you can transform your reality. Dive deep into the quantum field. Visualize your dreams and let the universe align with your desires. As always, it's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you. Keep visualizing, keep feeling, and keep creating the reality you deserve. Most of our thoughts and feelings come from our past experiences. They come from our memories, In fact, your brain is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. Your brain is a record of all the things you've learned and experienced to date. It's an artifact. And when you have an experience, when you're in the midst of an experience, all of your five senses plug you into the external environment. And as your brain is processing all of this vital sensory data, all of that information rushes back to the brain. And when it reaches the brain, it causes jungles of neurons to organize themselves into networks, to string into patterns, to reflect their interaction with their external environment. The moment those neurons organize into patterns, the brain makes a chemical, and that chemical is called a feeling or an emotion. And so experiences tend to create more long-term memories because it patterns or stamps or embosses networks of neurons into very specific patterns. And then the emotional quotient helps us to remember the event. So we learn something new intellectually. We also cause networks of neurons to form. I mean, the Nobel Prize laureate Kandel in the year 2000 found that when people learned just one bit of information, they doubled the number of connections in their brain from 1,300 connections to 2,600 connections. So if they didn't review that information or repeat it, the connections pruned apart. So we know then that learning semantic information begins to organize circuitry in the brain, and experiences enrich the brain. The end product of experience, of course, is the emotion, and it causes us to feel certain ways. You can remember where you were on 9/11. You can tell me who you were with, what time of day it was, what you were doing, because whatever you were seeing in that moment or hearing in that moment changed how you were feeling. And the moment you felt altered or you felt differently, significantly, your brain perked up and you paid attention to whatever caused that, and that event in and of itself is called a memory. So then most of our thoughts and feelings tend to be within the neural circuitry of the past and the emotions of the past chemically. So if you take a thought, thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. And how you think and how you feel creates a state of being. So if you combine a thought and a feeling, a thought and a feeling, a thought and a feeling, and you have a series of good thoughts that are connected to a series of good feelings, that cycle of thinking and feeling creates what's called an attitude. If you have a series of negative thoughts that are connected to some pretty bad feelings, you'll say you have a pretty bad attitude today. So if how you think and how you feel creates a state of being, your attitudes are just shortened states of being. You feel good in the morning, you feel bad in the afternoon. If you take an attitude, an attitude, an attitude, and you begin to string attitudes together, when you combine an attitude, an attitude, an attitude, you start to form what's called beliefs. Now, a belief is just a thought you keep thinking over and over again until you hardwire it in your brain. And because beliefs are based on past experiences, the very boundaries of our beliefs are how we feel. And so when our beliefs get challenged, it typically doesn't feel right. I know from the research that we've done that the redundancy of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking over time, for example, a person has an insecure thought, then they feel insecure. The moment they feel insecure, they think more insecure thoughts. They fire and wire more circuits in their brain to feel more chemicals of insecurity. And then once they're feeling insecure, they think more insecure thoughts. And they do this over and over again. The redundancy and the repetition of that cycle over time conditions the body to subconsciously become the mind. Once the body becomes the mind, that's called a habit. It turns out that 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old are a set of habituations, unconscious thoughts, unconscious behaviors, unconscious emotional reactions that function like a subconscious computer program. So back to beliefs, an attitude, an attitude, an attitude are shortened states of being, and you combine them together then. Then a belief then, the cycle of thinking and feeling over time, creates a subconscious state of being. I don't move past the word visualization because I think it kind of conjures up a little bit too much of a spiritual association. The word that's used in science is called mental rehearsal. In mental rehearsal, there's two types of mental rehearsal. There's what's called internal mental imaging, which means you're in the scene as the first person experiencing it. And then there's called external mental imaging, which is you're observing yourself in the scene. It turns out that when you are actually in the first person and not the third person, that action of rehearsing what you're doing produces the strong biological change. Now let's talk about this. You can take a group of people that have never played the piano before, and you can do a functional brain scan on them, and then you can teach them one-handed scales and chords, and they'll practice those chords 2 hours a day for 5 days. At the end of 5 days, they grow a whole new set of circuits on the opposite side of the brain. Well, that makes sense. You learn something new. Learning is making new synaptic connections. You get your body involved with some instruction. When you get your body involved, you're going to have a new experience. Experience enriches the brain. You pay attention to what you're doing. You've got to pay attention. You have to stay present. And if you repeat it over and over again, firing and wiring, you assemble new networks of neurons equal to your experience. Nothing new there. But you can take a group of people and you can have them close their eyes to a brain scan on them before the experiment. 5 days later, do a brain scan after. And for 2 hours a day, they mentally rehearse playing those scales and chords. At the end of 5 days, they grow the same amount of circuits in their brain as the people actually physically doing the exercise. So what's the relevance? Number one, when you're truly focused and you're truly paying attention, your brain does not know the difference between what's going on out there and what's going on in here. So the thought becomes the experience, and the brain looks like it's been playing the piano for the last 5 days, but they never lifted a finger. Now, from a biological standpoint, our brains are a record of the past. They're an artifact of everything we've learned and experienced to this moment. When we prime the brain to change its circuitry before the experience, now the brain is no longer a record of the past. It's now a map to the future. And so as we warm up those brain circuits, it's more easy for us to slip into a supernatural behavior. If you take those people and you set them from the piano, and they've never played the piano before, but they've been mentally rehearsing for the last 5 days, they'll play those scales and chords. Like magic, they just learned how to do it just by changing their internal state. Take a group of men. You can have them close their eyes and for an hour a day mentally rehearse doing bicep curls over and over again, and they add an emotional component called harder, stronger, more intense, and they put themselves in that first-person internal mental image. At the end of 2 weeks, they have a 13.5 increase in muscle strength, and they've never performed the activity. Not only is the brain changed to look like the experience has already occurred, now the body has changed by thought alone. The body looks like it's been working out for the last 2 weeks. So then the power of mental rehearsal, of imaging, primes the brain and body to look like the future has already occurred. And when you set the extent of your limit and you can image what you can do even further than what's normal, then you are stepping into the unknown. And of course, then your body is going to follow your mind because the experience has already happened. You know, the challenge behind all of this is that people have to understand that there is a journey that they have to take. In other words, 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old is a set of memorized behaviors, emotional reactions, beliefs, perceptions, attitudes, behaviors that function like a subconscious computer program. 95% of who we are is a habit, and it's programmed in the body to keep doing something so many times, the body knows now how to do it better than your brain. So if that's 95% of who we are, the body becomes the mind. And most of the time, people are unconscious. So they're unconscious to the way they think. They're unaware of how they act, what they look like. They're not even aware of what they're feeling because it just feels like their normal self. So then to go from the old self to the new self, you've got to cross a river. And so then the moment they step into that river of change, the body has been conditioned to be the mind. The body doesn't like the uncertainty. And when you go to bed at night, you go from beta to alpha, theta, delta. So you slide up the scale when you wake up and you slide down the scale when you go to bed at night. And most people, when they go to bed at night, they just go from beta right down the delta. They fall very quickly. You can teach people then how to just sit and slow everything down and begin to visualize, begin to affirm, begin to change their thought, to begin to work with their body. And it seems, according to our research, that those changes can last. So what do most people do when they wake up in the morning? Your brain is a record of the past. It's an artifact, a memory bank of everything you've learned and experienced to this moment. So people wake up in the morning and they start thinking about their problems. And those problems are memories in the brain that are connected to certain people and certain things at certain times and places. So they wake up in the morning and they start thinking in the past. Now, the moment they start having those thoughts, every one of those experiences has an emotion associated with it. So when they start thinking about their problems or the problems of the world or the problems of their body or whatever it is, problems at work, they all of a sudden start to feel the correlated emotion. So now their body's in the past. So now people then get caught up in an emotion. They reaffirm their identity. They could wake up in the morning and feel nothing at all. And then all of a sudden they say, well, wait a second, I've got to get back to myself. So they start thinking about their problems, and here come the emotions. And they say, oh, now I feel like me again. So those emotions then begin to influence our thoughts. Like if you feel like a failure, you're going to think you're a failure. And when you think you're a failure, you're going to feel like a failure. And when you feel like a failure, you're going to think more thoughts equal to being a failure. And the cycle of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking causes you to say, I am a failure. And the repetition of that process of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking conditions the body to become the mind of that emotion. Now, the emotion is stored in the body. Now, the body's literally in the past. And the body, as the unconscious mind, doesn't know the difference between the actual experience that's creating the emotion and the emotion that you're creating by thought alone. Your body's believing it's in the same experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So getting people out of the past is the work. So then they wake up in the morning after they reaffirm who they are and they can't think greater than how they feel. They're in the familiar past. So if you're in the familiar past, you're going to do the things that reaffirm the emotions of your predictable future. So you wake up in the morning, you check your WhatsApp, you check your text, you check your Twitter, you tweet, you check your Facebook, you check your email, you check the news. Now you are really connected to everything that's known in your life. And then you run through a series of routine behaviors. You move around your house the same way you always do. You do all the same things. You go to the same grocery store. You buy the same food. You shop the same way. You do all these, you watch the same TV shows, and people do this for 10, 20, 30 years. Now their body's on autopilot, and their body's dragging them into a predictable future based on what they did in the past. We could actually take their yesterday and lift it up and set it on their tomorrow, which means then they've lost their free will to a program. So now the familiar past and the predictable future is called the known. There's only one place that you have to train a person to be so that they're not in the known, they're in the unknown, and that's called the present moment. So people get very happy being unhappy because they would rather cling to their unhappiness than take a chance in possibility. So stepping into that river and beginning to make a new choice and understanding that uncertainty, that unpredictability is the unknown. Now you're in that river of change, and it is the neurological, the biological, the chemical, hormonal, genetic death of the old self. People say to me, well, if there's uncertainty, I can't predict my future. And I always say the same thing. The best way to predict your future is to create it, not in the known, right there. That uncertainty, you can learn now how to regulate your state instead of living in fear, because the idea that things are going to get worse, the idea that you can't predict, the idea of being uncertain or can't control something actually sets off the stress response. So now you're in the unknown and this survival gene is switched on. Of course, people are going out of the infinite possibilities that exist in the quantum field. They're going to select the worst scenario in their mind, right? So then what if you're in the unknown and you understand that, and now you can work back into that present moment and you say, what thoughts do I want to fire and wire in my brain, put my attention behind? What behaviors today, one day, what behaviors do I want to demonstrate? And the act of closing your eyes and mentally rehearsing who you're going to be when you open your eyes begins to install the neurological hardware in your brain to look like you've already done it. Now, the brain is no longer a record of the past. Fifth dimensional creation has nothing to do with going anywhere to get anything. Because if you combine a clear intention, a coherent thought, coherent brainwave pattern with a coherent heart, moving into that elevated emotion, thoughts are electric and feelings are magnetic. The magnetism of this center becomes the energy. The intention is carried on that energy, and now you are broadcasting a new signature into the quantum field. Now, if it's done properly and you understand the mechanics, in fifth dimensional creation, you are not going anywhere to get anything. You are actually collapsing space and time, and you are drawing the experience to you. You are the vortex, because when there's a vibrational match between your energy and that potential that exists in the quantum field, like tuning a radio dial, when you lock into that frequency, if you keep revisiting that energetic signature over again every single day, then you don't have to go anywhere and get it. The new job finds you. The new house actually finds you. The new relationship finds you, because you are the vortex that's drawing the experience to you. So if you're truly in the creative process, my definition of creation is when I forget about me. I become nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, in no time. I become pure consciousness. And the moment I reach that elegant moment of the generous present moment, all possibilities in the quantum field exist truly when our brain and body are in the present moment. Getting there is the work. So then, most people then create reality from what we call three-dimensional creation, while they're matter, trying to change matter. And if I'm going to get a good job, I'm going to do 100 applications and go on 10 different, 20 different interviews, and then it's going to take me 3 months to get a job. I may not even like that job, but I got a job. You want a new sperm donor? You want a new partner? You want a new specimen, you want somebody to live your life with, then you're going to go on Match.com. You're going to spend 2 hours. You're going to take time in three-dimensional reality, because real time is defined by us moving through space. And in this dimension, there's way more space than anything else. So we experience time as we take matter through space. That's how people create. You buy the house, 30-year mortgage, you pay it off in 3 hours. It takes time to do that. Now, when you teach people how to take their attention off of matter, off of objects, off of the particle, and sense energy and sense space, and pay attention to nothing, the moment they begin to open their focus, all of a sudden their brain waves begin to change from beta to alpha, but not only just alpha, where the imaginary inner world starts to become more real, but very coherent brainwave patterns in alpha. So when you're under stress, you're trying to control that person, that thing they're experiencing, your attention is shifting from one thing to the next. Turns out that each one of those things has a neurological network in the brain assigned to it, because we've experienced. As you try to control all these things and your attention is shifting, the brain is very incoherent, because the moment you open your focus and the brain begins to acclimate, different compartments of the brain begin to unify. They begin to synchronize. What syncs in the brain links in the brain. When your brain is coherent, you're coherent. When your brain is incoherent, you are incoherent. So we've measured this thousands of times. There'll come a moment in our work during a retreat, as an example, by the third day or so, you'll see very large areas of the brain, huge areas, begin to synchronize together. Then we'll see the left side of the brain talk to the right side of the brain. We'll see the front part of the brain talk to the back part. You see this kind of whole brain state starting to take, see it every time, walk around and look at that person, and you will see tears of joy running down their face. They feel so whole, they feel so complete that it's impossible to want. How can you want when you're whole? And that's the moment the magic happens. But they ultimately develop the cancer. So he was looking at matter thinking there's a glow of, with his measurements, matter's emitting a field. But it's not the case. It's actually the field that's creating matter. So change the field and you change matter. There's only two components according to the research that shows how to change the field. Here's an example. They did an experiment where they took a group of people that were great healers, and they took these vials of DNA and set them out in front of these people. And they said, now listen, this is a mindful function. With all of your intention, we want you to see this DNA wind or unwind in your mind. Just keep seeing it wind or unwind, wind or unwind. So they did it over and over again, over and over again. They checked the DNA. Guess what happened? Nothing. Intention did nothing to change the DNA. So then they said, okay, open your heart. Create an elevated emotion and just feel gratitude and radiate that feeling of care and love into the field. And let's see if that changes the DNA. They elevate their emotional state. They do it for a period of time. They check the DNA. Guess what happens? Nothing. But when they say to the people, what I want you to do is see the DNA unwind in tension, one frequency, the electrical charge in the quantum field, and feel the emotions you would feel as if it already unwound elevated emotion, magnetic field in the quantum. Over 20% of the DNA unwound at a remote location. So thought being the electrical charge in the quantum field, feelings being the magnetic charge. How you think and how you feel broadcasts a field. So now not just any type of field is going to do that, it's got to be coherent. So we practice creating brain coherence. We actually measure it. We practice creating heart coherence. Why? Because once energy moves right up in here and you can change resentment or frustration or impatience to joy, to freedom, to gratitude, and we're measuring to see if you're doing it. So now when the heart starts regulating, it starts beating like a drum and it starts to produce a measurable magnetic field. It's up to 3 meters wide. Now that energy is a frequency, and that frequency can carry information, and that information is your thought, is your intent. In other words, the elevated emotional gratitude can carry the thought of your health. The emotion of suffering cannot carry the thought of your health. It carries a different set of thoughts. So you can think positively all you want. And if you're feeling miserable, your mind and body are in opposition. So we teach people how to put these two coherent signatures together. The thought sending the signal out, the feeling drawing the event back. But the more coherent, the more organized the signal, the more connection you have to the field. So coherence is a synchronization. As an example, when people are under the gun of the fight or flight nervous system, they're living by the hormones of stress. The arousal of those chemicals drives the brain into a faster brain frequency called high beta brain waves. In high beta, the arousal, you're in survival. What you're trying to do now is control and predict everything in your life. You're